Hello everybody, welcome to another trip report video. Today we are delving into DXM, haven't done that one yet. I'm gonna try to just do like one of each of the notable ones to start off with, I think, as this channel begins. Tonight we are reading a tale titled 0 to Sigma in 5 Minutes Flat, a DXM and Cannabis trip report, uploaded to arrowhead.org on February 13th, 2025, by 3 Hits of Life. The experience I am about to describe happened to me months ago, but it is clear in my mind. I still think about it, and in many ways it has drastically changed my thoughts about many issues, including the nature of life and the concept of existence after death. It's hard to imagine having such an intense and life-changing experience at the age of 17, and considering the possibility of a similar experience in a more controlled atmosphere after I've gained more wisdom. I'm a junior in high school, and I've experimented with a number of recreational drugs, including weed, DXM, and a few other hallucinogens. At the time of my experience, I was also taking amphetamines for my ADD and fluoxetine for depression. I bought a bottle of 8 ounces of maximum strength cough syrup, and, ditching my previous method of the Agent Lemon extraction, I chugged the bottle at about 8:30 p.m. It tasted horrible. I couldn't get the taste out of the back of my throat for more than half an hour. Anyway, I had a relatively uneventful experience, and I went to sleep in a good mood. I woke up the next day, still feeling the after effects quite a bit, and went to school. That night, I got on the plane to California to visit my sister at Stanford. A few of her friends hung out with us, and one of them invited me to go smoke up. We went to the library, where we met a group of 20, passed around 3 bongs. This was about 20 to 30 hours after I took the tussin. After about 15 hits, I started to experience intense confusion. I knew where I was, but I had a strong fear that I had lost all knowledge of how I was supposed to react to anything that could happen, even something as simple as somebody addressing me. This new feeling was completely different than any other time I tried weed, so I started to get really worried. I read a little bit about the Sigma plateau that can be achieved by taking DXM, but for obvious reasons that thought never occurred to me. At this moment, less than 5 minutes after I started smoking, I became literally unable to smoke any more weed, and the trip took a drastic turn. I created a fantasy that weed was an extremely potent poison that sent you into an immense trip and then killed you after a certain amount of uses. I convinced myself that almost everyone who smoked weed was pretending, and only a select few people of incredibly low intelligence actually ingested the deadly substance. The observers would just wait for one of the morons to expire and spend the entire time laughing at the prolonged and humiliating death. This fantasy was interrupted by a switch to a confusing and completely immersive hallucination. I cannot say how immediate the switch was, as all I remember is being inside the library conference room and actually becoming a complex fractal, in the sense that along with seeing it, I could feel it the way one feels their own body, with no memory of the conference room or even any of my life. After a few moments of incredible confusion, I conceded with absolute certainty that this was the process of dying, and I, somewhat cheerfully, began to wonder how I had died. After an undetermined time, I felt myself back in the room. I collectively recognized the 20 or so college students in the room as God. This didn't seem at all odd to me, and when one of the kids made some comment about me being virtually comatose, I developed the belief that life was just a creation of a bunch of teenage deities who watched everyone's lives and then made fun of them when they died. Next, I found myself experiencing the entire life of somebody else. When I was about 17, things started to get a little crazy. I was reading a science fiction book when all of the minds of the world I was living in began to break down. In a matter of minutes, the entire universe had collapsed into a beautiful-looking array of thick white lines. Think of the lines in a family tree, and each line represented a single conscious mind. This is when I noticed they were starting to merge together as the family tree began to approach the apex. I quickly realized that pretty soon there would be just one line. That line would be me. I began to read the book, and the book was detailing exactly what was happening. The entire universe was actually just a collection of perceptions that eventually evolved into the more complex thoughts of animals and eventually the human mind. The fundamental building blocks of the universe were sensual perceptions, not elements, and matter was just an illusion. The book went on, however, to explain that the universe I was in was actually one of many experimental universes designed by man. They thought of it as a kind of complex computer program and had programmed it to merge to one single isolated mind after a certain amount of time. The universe, however, would continue to exist, and for a few interminably long moments, I was operating under the belief that I would be entirely and absolutely alone for eternity. That was the single most terrifying thought I had ever had in my entire life. The lines eventually merged completely, and I actually was completely alone. Luckily, I left that universe and again became a series of different fractals, relieved that I had somehow passed into a new phase of the experiment. For the next part of the trip, I experienced a number of events which were quite numerous and exciting, but either too incomprehensible or repetitive to mention. After a while, I found myself in God's presence again. In this encounter, they did not act like God at all. For an unbearably long time, they berated me, calling me stupid and useless, although in more varied and eloquent terms. After my ego was sufficiently crushed, 2 other people showed up. I later decided that they were test administrators, and briefly told me that my trip was over and I was finally dead, but that I was somehow extremely important. I was reminded of the perceptual universe idea, and then I found myself in my sister's dorm, confused as to why I was not dead. I sat there thinking until I pieced together that this was somehow a test. I convinced myself that this is the test that everyone goes through right before they die. They are placed back in reality with knowledge of the nature of life, and they pass if they relate this information to people who are alive. I thought this act would allow humans to ascend to a higher level of existence. Apparently God had insulted me to lower my self-esteem and make me unhappy, therefore decreasing my chances of passing the test. I'm a shy person in general, and I feared the sudden announcement that I knew the meaning of life would not necessarily be well received, so I asked my sister for a piece of paper. I began to write down the concept of the perceptual universe, fueled by the inspirational lyrics of Eminem. Unfortunately, at this moment, one of my sister's friends took this chance to begin discussing someone he knew with MPD. All of a sudden, I remembered the weed that I had smoked, and one discussion I had with my mom about a relative of mine with schizophrenia. As it is believed to be genetically linked, it is possible that I could have it too, so I freaked out. Only the second time I remember being genuinely unhappy during the trip. I started cursing quietly at myself and worrying that I would be fucked up for the rest of my life. This is a scary amount of time to be thinking that you will be schizophrenic for the rest of your life. Then I remembered the DXM I had taken the day before, and everything clicked. Although that was not the way a Sigma trip is normally achieved, I believe it was certainly possible. I explained this to my confused sister and then went to sleep. I woke up well rested and completely normal, although a little embarrassed, not knowing what I had done while I was off in a different dimension. Apparently it involved me vomiting on a few of my sister's friends, although she wisely didn't tell me until the day I left. I've had multiple emotional, absolute loneliness flashbacks while writing this experience. Every time I smoke up now, I have flashbacks, however they are beginning to dissipate. The most interesting thing is that at the time I wouldn't have considered it a negative experience at all. In fact, most of the time I was enjoying myself. Even for a few weeks afterward, I wouldn't have called it a bad trip. I can only wish for an experience later in my life as mind-expanding as the one I experienced in California. Hopefully, with greater wisdom and preparation, I will be able to achieve one. Now, that was a very peculiar one. I have never heard of anyone buying DXM instead of stealing it. But also, I have never heard of anyone peeking on it that long after taking it. It actually, slightly makes me suspicious about how true the story is in general, because what? But at the same time, it seems like, I don't know, I feel like if this was made up, they would have been a lot more sensational with it, maybe. Like, they wouldn't have just said the same things that other people tend to experience in these kinds of dissociatives. It might honestly be possible that the weed, did something. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, let's not graze over the fact that they took 15 bong hits. I don't know if those were full bowls, but that's potentially a lot. And people have entered, I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone entering that kind of state on weed, but people can have some crazy stuff. So I don't know, maybe the residual DXM in their system combined with that much weed. I don't know, man. It's very weird. Or I mean, like, they drank one bottle of the, oh, by the way, don't fucking drink cough syrup. Oh my god, listen. DXM can be kind of harmful. Like, it can be addicting. It can give you depression if you take it every day for a while, and then stop taking it. You will have depression for a while afterwards, and then it can potentially last quite a while. So don't abuse it. I've also heard it's just kind of bad for the body in general. It's basically just like a really shitty ketamine. But in any case, yeah, no, if you're gonna do it, just do the pure tablets so that you don't drink potential poison. They put some bad shit in those cough syrup bottles to make you not drink too much of it sometimes. Well, actually, I don't know if it's to make you not drink it or if it's just because those are the ingredients for other effects of the substance, like nasal congestion relief or whatever. I don't know. Point is, those other ingredients can be very bad for you and potentially kill you if you take too much of it. So don't just chug cough syrup. There's literally, like, if you want to trip on DXM, there is still no reason to ever do that, okay? Just don't do that. There are better ways. Anyway, what was I saying, like, a really long time ago? Right, so they chugged one bottle, which I don't know the dosing for bottles of this shit, man. I don't know, but I think people tend to often take more than one if they want significant experiences. Maybe I could be wrong. Don't chug more than one. Don't chug anyway, I think I made my point. So, like, it might be possible that, and probably it is the case, that they may have just not been tripping at all on the DXM by the time they smoked the weed, and when they smoked the weed, they weren't smoking weed. That honestly feels like the most likely explanation for this for me. What do you think it was? I'm genuinely curious to hear theories, cause what the hell? Anyways, I'll probably talk more about DXM in general. Maybe I'll share one of my own experiences on it in future videos. Just figured I should get all the warnings out there in this one. And, you know, maybe the next one will be an actual DXM experience, assuming this one wasn't, which maybe it was, again, I don't know. In any case, I hope you end up having a good day/night/moment of eternity. I will catch you all in the next one.